On the Olympic Peninsula of western Washington lies a large lake carved by Ice Age glaciers, Lake Crescent. Sitting just north of the Olympic National Park, it's nearly 11 miles long and the second deepest lake in the state, only beaten by Lake Chelan to the east. It was reported being 624 feet deep. However, more recent claims say it could be closer to over 1,000 feet deep. Despite its depth, Lake Crescent is remarkably clear. It also holds two unique species of fish, the Beardsley rainbow trout and the Cascadia cutthroat, both of which can only be found here. Legends told by local Native Americans say that there once was a great battle that happened here between the Kalalam tribes and the Quileute. At the time there was no lake here. It was just a small river valley. The violence angered a mountain spirit said to be Mount Storm King, and by the end of the third day of the battle, the spirit of the mountain caused a massive landslide, damaging the river, causing it to flood, becoming Lake Crescent. After this event, both tribes avoided the area, claiming that the lake never gives up.
It's dead.
This tale was thought to be true when in 1929, Russell and Blanche Warren crashed their 1927 Chevy into the lake, never to be heard of again. It wasn't until 2002 when divers located the wreckage. In January 1960, Dan Steele and his friends Diane, Gary, and Beverly slid off the icy highway, plummeting their 1950 Dodge sedan into the cold, unforgiving waters. Luckily, they were able to escape. Ironically, this happened not too far from the other wreck. Now you can see how this beautiful lake has a dark side, but it isn't just car wrecks and old Native American battles that have happened here. Tonight, we'll be telling another dark tale. This is the story of the Lady of the Lake. In 1914, Avery and Julia Singer built a small two-story hotel right off the shore of Lake Crescent. One large building with 7 rooms to stay in and some small cottages near the main building. They were open for business the following year, although they weren't the first establishment on the lake. Many others had built before, but most of them burned down. Singer's Tavern became the most popular resort on the lake. Most people arrived by ferry since the road conditions were very poor. With a large stone fireplace, running water, and electricity, most visitors felt welcome and cozy. The Singers found it natural being good hotel hosts. Julia was very nice and charming and always kept her visitors fed, while Avery felt it was his duty to entertain. They provided activities such as golf, tennis, horseshoes, and trap shooting, while also providing boats for rentals. Newspapers from Port Angeles and Seattle praised the Singers. It was regarded as the most classy place to stay on the lake. In 1927, the Singers decided to sell their resort to Seattle Trust Company under the management of Frank Maltby. During the 1930s, there was discussion of making the Olympic Mountains a national park. Because of this, in 1937, President Franklin D. Roosevelt came to visit the resort after stopping in Port Angeles. He was the first president to ever step foot on the Olympic Peninsula. During his stay, he had a meeting with a couple of Washington state senators and congressmen, as well as the Forest Service superintendent. It was at this meeting when FDR was in favor of making the Olympic Mountains a national park. Later that same year, a woman would vanish from the area. She was an employee at the resort when FDR visited. No one would know what happened to her. for almost 3 years.
Lay your head on her shoulder and suffer.
Haley Latham was born on January 8, 1901 in Greenville, Kentucky. She was the daughter of Finis and Mary Latham. At the age of 18, Haley married Floyd James Sparker on September 26, 1919. A year later, on May 21st, they would have a daughter together named Doris Marie Sparker. They eventually traveled to South Dakota and settled in Davison County. While there, Haley visited a dentist who implanted dental plates into her mouth. At the end of the 1920s, their family moved to Wayne, Nebraska, where Haley worked at a beauty parlor. They even had an ad in the local paper. On August 20th, 1931, Floyd was on his way to Wagner, South Dakota. Only 3 miles into his trip, he crashed into another car. He was instantly killed. Abby Dunsmore, age 23, and Henry Tucker, age 37, also perished in the wreck. Their passenger, Frank Jordan, was the only survivor. Floyd died at the age of 36. I couldn't find any information on what happened to Doris after this. She didn't stay with Haley, so perhaps she stayed with some family or was put up for adoption. Haley fell in love with a new man, Donald Bruce Strickland. They got married a year after Floyd's death. However, the marriage did not last long. This was during the height of the Great Depression, and women's wages were very low. Perhaps this is why she rushed into a new marriage. After the divorce, Haley moved again. Trying to get away from it all, she went as far west as she could, into Washington State on the Olympic Peninsula. She found a job at Singer's Tavern, which is now called Lake Crescent Lodge, working as a barmaid. It was here where she met Montgomery James Illingsworth, also known as Monty. He was born in 1908 in Nebraska. In 1920, he would move to Missouri. After that, he would travel west and go between Washington and California frequently, working as a beer truck driver. He was known as a smooth-talking ladies' man, and soon Haley would fall under his spell. They would get married on June 16, 1936. It seems like getting married was like flipping a switch. Monty was not Mr. Nice Guy like Haley thought. No, he was abusive and a drunk. Haley would often show up to work with black eyes, swollen lips, and bruises on her wrists. It was clear that this relationship was abusive. After 5 months, Haley would disappear on December 22, 1937. People began asking questions like, where did Haley go? Why would she just leave? Monty's reply to this was always that she had run off with some sailor up to Alaska. Not too long after this, Monty left town, going to Long Beach, California. He was granted a divorce from Haley and married another woman a year later. For 3 years, no one knew what happened to Haley. They speculated that maybe Monty had done something very bad, but no one could prove it. On July 6, 1940, Lewis Ralph and his brother were fishing on Lake Crescent that afternoon. They spotted something strange floating in the water. They were soon horrified by what they had just found. Wrapped in 2 gray striped blankets was the body of a woman. Her skin looked preserved, yet at the same time it looked as if it had melted and hardened back to her corpse. Panicking, the Ralph brothers ran as fast as they could to the dock of a fish hatchery, running into the superintendent, A.D. Eimenroth. Listening to their story, Eimenroth was very skeptical. "It must be a deer, Lewis," Eimenroth told Lewis. But he agreed to follow the Ralph brothers back to the body. As soon as he laid eyes on it, he realized they weren't mistaken. It was no deer. Eimenroth later contacted Callum County Prosecutor Ralph Smythe and the Sheriff Charlie Kemp. who rushed to the scene to retrieve the body. The body was then sent to Crescent mortuary. They estimated she was in her 30s. Her skin was white like marble. Her body fat had transformed into a soap-like substance. This process is called saponification. Cold water and minerals such as salt had penetrated the fatty tissues, stopping the body from decomposition. Think of it like mummification, but a little different. A medical student studying the body said, "There was no real smell or decay." The autopsy concluded that this woman had been beaten to death. She was also hogtied with hemp rope and weighed down with rocks found in the blankets. Hemp rope, being organic, had weakened from decay, and the body became unusually light due to the saponification. This caused it to float up to the surface. The pathologist estimated that she must have been submerged for about 3 years. When Dr. Cavaney examined the body, he said, "I never saw a corpse just like this one before. The flesh is hard, almost waxy. She must be nearly as large as she was when she went in the water. I'd say she's about 5 feet 6 inches in height, and she weighed about 140 pounds when alive." She was buried in a potter's field near Port Angeles. At first, police thought she was Marion Frances Steffens of Chicago, a woman who went missing in the Olympic National Park in 1939. However, they quickly ruled this out. It would take 14 months until her identity became known. They found a 6-tooth bridge dental plate made of gold in her mouth. Photographs were taken of the plate and shared with nearly 5,000 dentists from around the country, showing a picture of it in newspapers. A dentist in Fulton, South Dakota, recognized it as his work and was able to identify the woman as Haley Latham Illingsworth. Now that they know who was found in the lake, it was time to find out who did this horrible crime. Their prime suspect? Montgomery James Illingsworth, her husband. On October 26, 1941, Monty was tracked down in Long Beach, California, and arrested under suspicion of murder. The trial began on February 24, 1942. During his trial, Monty told investigators that he had obtained a divorce for incompatibility. He claimed that he last saw her at Christmas time back in 1937, and that she told him that she was seeing a sailor and planning to move up to Alaska. Co-workers of Haley's took the stand, stating that Monty would hit her when he was drunk, and that she came into work at the Singer's Tavern with a black eye and bruises, more times than not. Monty eventually confessed to the abuse, stating that it was normal for the couple to get into physical altercations, but also claiming self-defense. He said, "Yeah, I struck Haley, but also she struck me. I never beat her up. I did not kill her." After that, the prosecutor asked Monty why he hated Haley. He denied hating her. Then the prosecution replied, "Then why did you beat her so?" They put forward the theory that Monty strangled Haley to death some point between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., then placed her body in the trunk of his car, drove to Crescent Lake, and disposed her body there. Then evidence came forward. Earl Enos, manager of the Port Angeles Distribution Company and former employer of Monty, took the stand and identified the 50 feet of hemp rope used to hogtie Haley as the same rope he had lent to Monty. He told the court Monty never returned the rope or showed his face in town after that. The jury took 4 hours to reach a verdict. On March 5, 1942, the jury found Montgomery Illingsworth guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison and would serve his time at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. However, Monty would be paroled in 1951, only serving 9 years in prison for his actions. He then moved back to California. Monty would die on November 5, 1974, in Los Alamitos, California, at the age of 67. I could not find his cause of death, but I do believe he should have stayed in prison for the remainder of his life for the murder of his wife, Haley. Today, there are rumors of a female spirit haunting the shore of Lake Crescent. Some believe it is Haley's soul bound to the area forever after losing her life in such tragedy. I hope wherever her soul roams, that she is at least at peace.
Hang her weary head and cry. What makes a woman hang her weary head